We're going to start with the lightning rod session. Ooh, people are quiet. I love it. Come on in. We're about to start. My name is Michelle Joseph. I am the executive director and founder of a nonprofit called the Student Global Ambassador Program. And I'm also the president of Next Generation, which is a pipeline for clean energy as well as construction companies, getting them fabulous talent and green talent that we need today. Today, I want to introduce you to some phenomenal people who are going to be talking right here, right now, about what we need to do for the Greater Baltimore Climate Summit. Now, who has been to the summit last year? Raise your hands. All right, I was there too. Amazing, powerful. And we're excited about doing this once again. So I'm going to start with the very first person. I'd love you to say a special greeting for her. And before we start, I'm going to put on my glasses so I could read. So hold on. Now I can see. I love it. Joanna is actually the sustainability manager at Baltimore City Public Schools. She's going to be having a lightning talk, Going for Green in Baltimore. Can you give her a special hand? Where is Joanna? Come on up, Joanna. Yes, come, bring. The light is here.
Thank you.
You're most welcome.
Good afternoon, everybody. I'm Joanna Pisunia. I'm with Baltimore City Public Schools. I'm our sustainability manager. I'm based in our operations office, but work across the district. So I'm just going to be doing a very quick overview of some of the work that we have underway. So for those of you that may not be as familiar with us, we have about 160 schools. We have over 17 million square feet of real estate. We have 76,000 kids. We have a high proportion of low-income kids such that we are eligible for free lunch across the district. So it's a community eligibility district. We have a sustainability policy that was adopted by our board in 2016, and now we have a sustainability plan, which is a staff-level document that we have developed, and we're on our second iteration of that now. And our work is divided into these 7 categories, and within each of those, we have defined goals and metrics. I have to report annually to our school board on progress of those goals. So what I always say is having a policy and a plan does not make it be, and we certainly have many more miles to go in our journey, but without it, it's very difficult to do this work. And so it's helpful to have it as a baseline and as a framework for us as we go forward. We know that the research shows the benefit of this work for our kids, right? We are in this because of our kids, and integrating in environmental literacy and education into the classroom, while some may say, well, we don't really have time for that. We have to focus on the basics and so on. We're trying to make the case that it's a really great foundation for hands-on, locally relevant learning that helps with all these other things. We are really trying to find ways that overlap with all of our colleagues who have their own goals that they need to reach. So these are just some of the examples of what an individual in another department may say, like, well, I don't really have time for this. And we say, well, this can really help you do your job and can help us further our sustainability goals throughout the district. I also want to say that we have recently adopted a portrait of a graduate, which is something you'll see a lot of K-12 schools now have. And it's sort of the quote unquote soft skills of what we're looking for our students to have. So yes, we want them to know the math and the English language development and all of the sort of traditional K-12 pieces. But these are crucial skills for success no matter what you do after you graduate from high school. And again, we believe that the environmental sustainability work really supports all of this and can be really engaging for our kids to have them be interested and engaged in school with, again, locally relevant pieces that is not just an abstract thing on a PowerPoint that they are looking at while sitting in class. So I want to I'm structuring this really as thinking about our different communities that we have and what makes up our whole school district. So our students are, of course, our primary customers. And so we are looking at how we can build those hands-on experiences for our kids and also build positive connections to nature. A lot of our kids have not had the good fortune to have positive experiences in nature. Those spaces have been excluded from or don't feel safe in or are not safe in. And sometimes the school grounds may be the only opportunity for that, or school field trips and trips that they can take. And so using that both for hands-on learning and for sort of the social emotional side and building those connections to nature is important. Our teachers are, of course, vitally important to our school community. So our teachers often, and there's a poster about this here, often are not trained in environmental work and environmental justice and climate change, and therefore are not spending a lot of time teaching about it. So how can we help them be well trained so that then they can teach in the classroom and teach the curriculum? And when there's opportunity for them to do additional programming for those lessons that they have to teach, that they can have the opportunity to bring in the science and the environmental learning for it. So these are examples of some of our teachers who are leading extracurricular green teams after school. We have a program to support teachers doing that. And then we also have summer curriculum trainings and systemic professional development learning for our teachers. Our school leaders are vitally important. We have quite a decentralized model in Baltimore City Public Schools, so principals have a fair amount of autonomy to make decisions on their own. And when a principal believes in this work, it is much more likely to happen in their school. We are therefore trying to educate our principals about why this is important. We're also, though, recognizing that in the name of equity, we cannot only rely on a principal who thinks this is important. So that if you happen to be at a school whose principal is not highly valuing this work, we still want you to get some of these experiences and therefore embedding those into the curriculum as versus only having them be extra on top of what is in the curriculum. Our families, also crucially important, right? Kids only spend a certain number of hours at school. They are going home every day. What are the opportunities to invite families into our schools, invite them into the learning opportunities, help them with their kids when they bring their learning home to expand and continue what they are learning in school. And so really trying to encourage whenever there's an opportunity for family learning and family engagement to seize on that. And we believe that this work is really rich for that. And drawing on families' cultural history, gardening, things like this can really be effective ways to bring families in. And then our central office team is also very important. So just a couple of examples of some of the things that we are doing. We do have a number of electric school buses now that our transportation team is deploying. Our design and construction team has designed, we have 3 net zero energy schools. We have a 4th just starting design right now. And then our college and career readiness team. How can we really get our kids ready for the blue-green economy and entering the world with an understanding of this work, whatever career path they may choose. And so we actually have a grant from the state for the wind economy and training kids in welding and electrical and things to prepare for jobs that we believe will be coming. More examples of some of the central office work. We are really focused on lowering our energy use intensity, our EUI. We do not have a baseline, like we will be 20% below baseline by X year, because our portfolio has been changing a lot. We have schools closing, we have brand new schools opening, we have schools moving into temporary space, moving back, and having that metric overall for the entire district proves to be very difficult. We're also adding air conditioning, I should say, to a number of our schools. So we are looking at building by building our EUI and how we can lower that, and that's an example of some of the lighting upgrades we've done in partnership with BGE. We partner with the Baltimore City Department of Public Works on our recycling program. And then we do a lot of different sort of behavior modification, education programming with kids and staff on how to change, turning off those lights in the auditorium that are on all weekend or whatever it may be, not propping open doors, reporting leaks, sort of the day-to-day things of the buildings. I want to also highlight our Farm to School work, which has grown tremendously over the years. So we have a number of different things about supporting outdoor learning. We have an effort of trying to reduce food waste. We throw out massive amounts of food on a daily basis, which is really just terrible and is very challenging to overcome. And so working on how we might do share tables, composting, smarter ordering of food so we waste less, food presentation so that it's more likely to be taken, lots of different tactics for that. We run a number of different summits at the farm where groups of kids come out for the day, and we offer lots of different field trips for our K-5 students to come out to the farm. So I'll close with really the way that we look at this work is building agency among our students, staff, and family, and all of our school community to really feel that this is something that all of us have a role in, no matter where you sit within the organization. And so it isn't something that this is someone else or that's that department that deals with this problem, that it is something that all of us have a role in. And so, there's pictures of teachers being trained in Leakin Park on the natural world and stream studies and kids recycling, and our grounds shop on tree pruning and tree care. And so there are myriad examples of things that we are doing now and myriad more that we could be doing and we are hoping to do. We can't do it alone. Any of you who are interested in working with us or supporting us, we are always interested in talking. We may not be able to always take action on that, so I know there's some frustration about some of the things that we're not doing, but I am always interested in talking. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Can you give me one more hand for Joanna Pisunier? Love that last name. All right. So you learned a little bit about what they're doing in the school system regarding sustainability. You're learning a little bit about how the students are learning and bringing those things home. But I also wanted to introduce you to the next lightning talk. This one specifically is about why decarbonizing Baltimore means ending waste incineration. I'm interested in this already. So Mike Ewald, I hope that's how you pronounce his last name, is Executive Director of the Energy Justice Network. Now, I have heard of this one. So why don't we give a round of applause for Mike as he comes on up. Mike? Oh, there you are, Mike.
And there's a clicker I better get. Okay.
All yours, Mike.
Thank you so much. All right, hi everybody. Good to see you all. Let's see if I can hold both of these at the same time. Okay. So I'm the founder and executive director of a national group called Energy Justice Network based in Philadelphia. And one of our member groups is the Clean Air Baltimore Coalition, who's had the goal of getting the largest climate and general air polluter in all Baltimore City and County closed down, and that is the trash incinerator here in the city. This incinerators have a few names. It's largely known as Bresco. Wheelbrader was the owner. They are now owned by a different parent company, so they're now called Win Waste. It's the same company, and it's that big recognizable smokestack off of 95. It's not a Welcome to Baltimore sign. That is a trash incinerator. And they burn up to 2,250 tons of trash per day, mostly from the city and the county. And they're the #1 air polluter in that region. They're the largest of 2 incinerators in the state and the 9th largest now in the nation. And having studied this extensively, I just did a recent report on this for folks down in Florida. The studies that look at trash incinerator health impacts on communities find a lot of health impacts where they have found them, usually studies out of Europe and Asia. They don't study them much in this country, but they've largely found increases in cancers of various sorts, respiratory problems, birth defects and other birth outcomes, cardiovascular, urinary diseases, it goes on, the types of injuries that are happening because of this pollution. And this is just a map of where the incinerators are in the country. So you can see we're in the middle of a crazy cluster. We're working on getting all of these closed down. That's my personal mission. We will have the one in Montgomery County closed down next year because of a group I was just meeting with on Zoom. I've been working with them for 9 years toward that, and we're about to win. And the one in Oregon that does not exist is because it shut down this past January because of a law, a state law that I wrote that got passed 2 years ago. I think you might see a slide on that in a minute. But this is the trend line of how many are operating in this country. So this is an industry that's crashing, that's getting old, and our job is to close them as soon as possible so we can move on from what is the most polluting and expensive way to manage waste or make energy. The average age of the ones that have closed down, there are 54 of them now. Since 2000 it was 26 when they closed. The one here in Baltimore just turned 41 this month. Very few have even made it to their 40th birthday, and so we'd like to maybe celebrate their birthday by closing them down. The track record of them getting new ones built in this country is pretty close to zero. They've had none built at a new site despite hundreds of attempts in the past 3 decades, and only one built next to an existing one in Florida 10 years ago. So we have a pretty good track record of winning, and we just need to build a better track record of closing this industry down for good. So, this is the Oregon one that we got shut down. And just as a frame of reference, because at a climate summit, environmentalists here, probably you're all like, yeah, coal is the dirtiest thing ever. We all know that, right? Trash incineration, however, if you look at EPA's emissions data on it, is even dirtier by most measures than burning coal, even though trash incinerators tend to be newer and have more pollution control equipment on them than coal power plants. So even after the pollution controls, they're still more polluting than burning coal. But the real issue is how it compares to landfills. It's not landfill versus incinerator, it's landfill versus both, because you don't get away from landfilling. You just have a smaller but more toxic landfill, in this case, Quarantine Road landfill in southeast Baltimore. And some of it, now that Baltimore County finally, several years ago, started taking their share of the ash back, which they weren't doing. They were just dumping that on Baltimore City too. So some of it's going to Eastern Sanitary Landfill on White Marsh. So when we studied this, this is a study I did for Montgomery County, Maryland, when their county executive asked us to evaluate the information they were getting from their own consultants and own staff. And we did a comprehensive life cycle assessment comparing incineration to landfilling. And what we found in that, in blue, is that the incinerator is twice as bad for the climate than going straight to landfills. This is a composite of 10 landfills we researched. But on top of those climate impacts, you have in brown the heart attacks and strokes associated with particulate matter. In yellow, you have the asthma attacks associated with nitrogen oxide exposure. In red, you have the cancers and birth defects and learning disabilities associated with carcinogenic and toxic chemicals. 3.2 times more harmful to burn trash in landfill ash than to go straight to the landfill with the trash. That's what we're talking about. That's what the science is saying. And other studies of different areas have backed this up. One of the main arguments you get back, though, from companies and defenders of incineration, they say, well, it's those dirty diesel trucks are the problem. And if we have to haul our waste all the way to another state like Pennsylvania or Virginia, which are like the magnets for waste in the whole country, Pennsylvania is my home state, and we're the largest importer of trash. We take waste from all but 6 states. So if you shut this incinerator down, which should have been done years ago, which we almost pulled off 5 years ago, then it would probably go to Pennsylvania or Virginia. And they say the trucks are the issue. Well, in that study in Montgomery County, you can see the climate impacts. In red is the incinerator. The 10 landfills we looked at are in yellow. The transportation is the little caps on top. The blue parts are those dirty diesel trucks. The black is if it's by a rail. You would literally have to drive a truck from Maryland to California to reach a landfill to almost close the gap between how much worse incinerators are for the climate than landfills. And so this is what the data is showing us. So there's also an environmental racism dimension to this. We've studied many industries. We have an environmental justice analyzer tool that's unique that can look at a whole study of like an entire industry at a time. Like we looked at 15,000 uranium mines at once, found the worst racial disparity that we found of any industry. That was for indigenous people. But the worst, oh, my clock says 6 minutes, so I'm gonna keep going and finish this. So the worst impacts are for, no, I started 6 minutes ago. I got 10. So the worst impacts are for black people in this industry, and we studied this across the country, and we see that same pattern here in Baltimore. And this is just the demographics to back that up. So it's the largest source of greenhouse gases in the city, and one of the ways that we want to tackle this is through the fact that the district energy heating system in this city, which is run by Vicinity Energy, one of the sponsors here, they get half of the steam that is powering the downtown steam loop from the trash incinerator. And the climate policies at the city and state level that say that we need to decarbonize count the incinerator emissions as if they're zero, even though they're about 6 times higher than all 3 gas plants that provide the other 50% combined. And so Vicinity Energy's strategy has been to electrify, which is good, and to close down the gas plants first, because they count when they do their carbon accounting, and then prioritize the incinerator, even though that's far worse than the gas plants. So I'm gonna skip this over a bit on zero waste and just point out that 5 years ago, I wrote the Baltimore Clean Air Act. It was passed unanimously by City Council after being supported by 36 organizations here. Unfortunately, the courts screwed it up and decided that the state law that says you can do this at the local level actually says the opposite. So we are working on getting a state bill passed to clarify what the state law says, but also at the same time working on other strategies at the city level to make sure to get it closed. And our main strategies here, the state level one, I encourage everyone who lives anywhere in Maryland to work with us on this, but also on the city level and the county level. Baltimore County's contract comes up next year. Baltimore City's comes up in about 5 years. And like we're doing in Philadelphia, where we have a hearing coming up in 2 weeks on a bill that's similar to one I wrote for Baltimore that says we will not contract with trash incinerators. We'd like to get that reintroduced in Baltimore now that we're not at the beginning of a contract, we're in the middle of one. It should be politically easier to get them to follow the promise, including the promise that Mayor Scott made himself and said this is the last incinerator contract. So if that's true, let's put it in writing and get a commitment in city law. And my last point went away. Okay, that was almost 9 minutes. All right, thank you so much. There's a sign-up sheet going around, actually 3 of them. Please, if you're interested in this work, sign up. There are some handouts as well, but we're not having as many as there are people here. So please sign up and we'll follow up and get you more information if you want to be involved. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Mike. That was great. Appreciate it. I could pass this on. Beautiful. Learned a lot right there about decarbonization in Baltimore, and definitely interested in learning more. So excited about that next opportunity. Where is that sign-up sheet? Is that going around? Let me see. Oh, there it is. Great. So make sure you sign up. Make sure you sign up. Lightning Talk. We're moving now to one of my favorite subjects. Zero waste to zero hunger. This speaks to me. And this is specifically from Christopher. And Christopher, I'm going to mutilate your name, so get prepared. Christopher Dipernana. Christopher. Help me out with your name, please, your last name. Diploman? Dipnorine. Yep. Gotcha, Dipnorine. So thank you so much, Christopher. We're excited about what you're talking.
Thank you. Happy to be here. My name is Christopher Dipnorine. I'm the founder and director of an organization here in Baltimore called For My City. Slides. Yeah. There we go. Transforming surplus waste into sustainable solutions for Greater Baltimore. I wasn't hired into this job. I started For My City. I used to live in Florida at the time. Homeless person got killed in front of me. Transformed my life completely. And I kind of gave up everything I was doing. I was a serial entrepreneur, had multiple businesses, living the good life. Sold my businesses, started driving around Baltimore and rescuing food and giving out to the homeless. That's how quick it happened. As I was driving around learning how much food waste we have, by all my partners that were just calling me constantly, hey, we have food waste, schools, restaurants, hotels. I wanted to build a system that would create a closed loop, not just address hunger, but create a full closed loop system in the food waste industry. We obviously know about 40% of the food we produce goes to waste, right? Everybody in this room is from some type of sustainability initiative, so we don't need to go over all of that. What we need is local solutions that's going to create the change, right? That's why I'm here. What we need to do in this space is stop creating division, create diplomacy, and bring everybody into the space to working together to address and create solutions to move projects forward. At For My City, we created an integrated solution. Now, this is 4 of our core programs, but our solution, hence the 4 in the For My City in our name, is what we call a 4-phase sustainability plan. Phase 1 is source reduction. So we work with multiple distributors, from Amazon to produce distributors to local farms. You name it, we partner with them to educate them about food waste. Like, Joanna spoke a little bit earlier about her school, inventory management, ordering, all these different things. We work with them to educate them about food waste. And then we encourage them to donate instead of trashing, right? We want them to donate that food, if it's edible, to organizations that are doing the work instead of trashing. Phase 2 is feed the hungry. Again, this is not on the slide. I'll go over what's on the slide in a bit. Phase 2 is feed the hungry. Well, what do we do with that food? To date, For My City has rescued and distributed over 260 million pounds of food. I started the organization in 2018. We've done over 260 million pounds of food rescued and distributed since October of 2018. How do we do that? We're the only nonprofit in the United States that has a 5 days a week distribution from Monday to Friday, 10 a.m. to 6 p.m. Families can walk up to our distribution. They can come one time a day, but they can come every single day of the week. We produce, out of our Baltimore facility, close to 100,000 pounds of food distributed into communities every single day. We have over 13,000 plus residents of Maryland participating in our program. Phase 3 is biodegradable products, right? We've developed our own line of biodegradable products utilizing food waste, sugarcane bagasse primarily, and cornstarch, making our own line of biodegradable products that is fully compostable in our technology within a 24-hour cycle, which leads us to our last phase, which is composting. So we are the first nonprofit in the United States to successfully achieve composting in a closed vessel system in a 24-hour cycle. Our soil is tested through the UMRI program to meet certain organic testing standards. How do we do all of this? Our program, like you heard me talk about, we do it in 4 key programs at For My City. Source reduction, we work with the manufacturers from Amazon to first fruit farms to you name it, we partner with them. We rescue the food and bring it back to our sustainability hub. Food Rescue to Go, which is our free in-home delivery for families that qualify, or our open market concept where families can just walk in. They would shop like they would shop at the local grocery stores, no questions asked. You sign up. We have a nice For My City app, and you sign up, and you just go down the line and pick up whatever resources that we have available that day. Like I said, you can come once a day, but you can come every single day of the week we have about 13,000 households and 90,000 plus individuals in that program. Compost on the Go, we have a free composting program. Over 12,000 Baltimore and Maryland City residents participate in that program. It's a free composting program. We give them a nice little Ziploc bag that's made from food waste. They can collect, they can put all their food scraps in there. If they live within a 10-mile radius of our warehouse, we will actually send someone from the community to pick it up. And if you want to sign up and be a community compost driver, you get $1 per bag you pick up. Right? So you can go, you can pick up the bags, and you can bring it right back to For My City. We put it in our vessel, and we compost it. That soil is then given back out to our community members completely free of charge. We also work with several urban gardens and farms that we give them the soil to create better soil quality here in Maryland. For My City Youth Job Training Program. We have a youth program, age 16 to 23. Kids from the community can sign up. They get paid minimum wage. Right now, I think it's like $15 an hour. But they get to facilitate all our programs. We don't have a paid board. We don't have a paid executive team. Most of our funding goes through our For My City Youth Job Training Program. I'm happy to say we just won Employee of the Year in 2025. So that was a huge achievement for us. But all our team, every single one of my team members that work at For My City actually came through our food lines. There's not one person hired at For My City that I hired in that didn't come through our food lines. So every single one of our employees, I'm proud to say, came through our food lines. So we are rooted in the community, and we operate by families directly from our community. Impact, like I said, we have about 315 million pounds of food rescued and distributed since 2018. 260 was edible food, 55 million was composted. We serve over 90,000 individuals. And what we say from participants participating in our program is an average saving of $400 a month. How do we know that? Our For My City app. We're the only nonprofit in the United States, and you hear me say that a lot, because like I said, I'm a serial entrepreneur, so I'm very into tech and AI and stuff. I'm very into data. Data is key with For My City. Every single participant, including myself, have to download our For My City app. Our app tracks how often you come. You get a survey in the app. It shows you what you picked up. You can select that you picked certain items up. It priced that items up for you, and you get, on a monthly basis, a daily basis, real time, your environmental impact. So as you're participating in our program, you see how much your CO2 savings are month to date, year to date. So families don't feel like they're just part of, hey, I'm just picking up food, I'm just here for charity. They actually feel and they can see real time their impact in sustainability initiatives. So now they feel like they're part of the change, which is something that we build here at For My City. We don't want you to feel like you're part of charity. We want you to feel like you are part of the change. So we've incorporated that within the participation of our program. There's a lot more, but my time is almost up. So if you'd love to learn more, our website's formycity.us. Feel free to reach out to me there. Our facility is open Monday through Friday. You can come in and visit anytime. You do not need to make an appointment. If you'd like to come visit me, feel free to send an email. That is my personal email. I will never change it. weekhere@formycity.us. That's on that website. So I'll never change it. I get every single email that comes through our organization. So feel free to reach out and we can chat and learn more about For My City. But like I said, our facility is always open Monday through Friday. You can just walk in and see our impact in person. Thank you.
Great job. For My City US. I love the fact, oh, thank you. I love the fact that you also have an app too, which is really tied into what we need to do to be able to track and keep things going. Speaking of keeping things going, the next lightning talk is talking about a future for composting in Baltimore, a working report. And with that, we have, actually, it looks like 2 speakers. Is it 2? Yes, wonderful. Anjali? Okay, and also Iman. Oh, she's virtual. Okay, wonderful. Oh, so we have 3. So what is your name, may I ask? Nika, wonderful. And? Dia Thomas, wonderful. We have 3 lovely ladies here to share about the talk of the future and composting and in Baltimore, specifically a working report. So with that, I will give this to Anjali. Oh, and you need this too, right?
So much. How much time do I have? All right, I'm gonna talk fast, but find me after, okay? So the Maryland Grassroots EJ Coalition is a coalition of many different organizations that are all supported by the Clean Energy and Climate Equity Fund, and we thank them for their support. Working on a host of climate issues from Brasco to Renew to some other policy issues in the state of Maryland. And we here, plus Iman, are a part of the Shutdown Brasco subcommittee, working together and looking for partners to transition Baltimore from burning trash to building local community-powered composting systems that protect health, create jobs, and keep dollars local. And I just want to say thank you to Mike for pointing out all of the harms that come with burning trash at Brasco, and thank you to Chris for highlighting some of these local solutions that we can do and we can build on diplomatically. So I'm gonna just tell you that Interfaith Power and Light DMV is a nonprofit that works with congregations of all faith traditions to respond to climate change through greening projects, such as solar panels and heat pumps, education, learning about the harms of burning fossil fuels and other polluting industries, and advocacy at the local, city, county, and state levels for stronger climate policy and stronger regulatory oversight.
All right, but look, I'm pressing it and it's not working. Here we go. Okay. All right. Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Nika, and I'm representing Out for Justice. Out for Justice is a criminal justice reform nonprofit that believes in empowering, engaging, educating, and evolving our communities.
Hello, everyone, and I am Dia Thomas. I'm representing Black Girls Vote, which is a nonpartisan organization here based in Baltimore, and we inspire, educate, and engage women to get involved in the political process. Happy to be a part of the subcommittee.
And our other partner, Iman, couldn't be here today from Progressive Maryland, but they are a power-building organization that engages in grassroots organizing to put low-income Black and Brown communities in decision-making spaces when it comes to environmental justice issues and policies. So we're here together today reckoning with the shared understanding that when it comes to waste management in Baltimore City, something's gotta give. So, we heard some background. BRESCO stands for the Baltimore Refuse Energy Systems Company, which is the legal name of the city's trash-to-energy incinerator, which was for the longest time branded as clean energy and subsidized by our tax dollars as part of Maryland's renewable energy portfolio until last year. You'll also hear references to Wheelabrator, which is the legal name of the operator, or WIN, Waste Innovations, then these are all names for the same thing. So BRESCO is responsible for over a third of the total measured outdoor industrial air pollution in Baltimore City, which is linked to annual health costs of $55 million per year, which is effectively paid for by local residents. Meanwhile, we're not producing all this trash that gets burnt by ourselves. This facility accepts waste from other states including New York, Ohio, Pennsylvania, Virginia, Georgia, West Virginia, and North Carolina. The vast majority of what's burned could either be composted or recycled. And beyond health costs to humans and our environment, there's a great economic case to be made for why waste should be routed away from incineration altogether. We're trying to make that case through this report to Baltimore City's Department of Public Works before they decide to renew the contract with BRESCO in 2031. Baltimore County also has active supplier contracts with Wheelabrator that get renewed on a yearly basis. So why do we do this work? I mean, grassroots isn't just in our coalition's title, it's a core part of our organizing work. And we do pay respect to the long-standing fight against waste incineration, which has been primarily fought by South Baltimore residents. So, for example, Mary, who is a member of Progressive Maryland, lives in Westport, close to BRESCO. She's lost family members who were living close to BRESCO to cancer, and she's battled kidney cancer herself. Mary spoke out in Annapolis last year to get the subsidies taken away from this polluting industry, as well as earlier this year at the February rally to get it gone for good. We have the science available now that links lead, which is released from incineration, to osteoporosis. Martina, another Progressive Maryland from Cherry Hill, has battled osteoporosis and weakened bones herself. Okay, just waiting for the clicker for the next slide. Stand by. Okay. It's estimated that over 73,000 tons that are currently burned at BRESCO each year could be composted. And citywide, that number climbs to over 750,000 tons. What we're not yet doing is tapping into these numbers by creating the infrastructure needed to manage this much compostable waste. How do we turn food scraps from stinky garbage to agricultural gold? We need to plan well, as people are already doing locally, and then build capacity. Next slide. Composting creates about 4 times more jobs per ton of waste than incineration, keeping jobs local and employment in local communities. We can chalk this up to more labor that's needed per ton and more steps in the processing, from separating the collection and contamination checks to the active aeration and turning, marketing, and distribution. Also, composting operations are more local and decentralized. I don't know if y'all got to have that delicious tea from that table out there. It's great. We can support more small and mid-scale sites, which are community and farm-based, rather than one large automated plant. Incineration is a cash vacuum. very few jobs, and most of those dollars leave Baltimore to pay for big equipment and debt. Composting is a local value engine. For the same ton of material, we hire more neighbors, buy from local firms, and produce a soil product that our parks and schools and growers actually need. It's not just waste management, it's local economic development. So tipping fees are the per ton payments that the city makes to dispose of trash at Patapsco. Every time a truck unloads a ton of trash, the city pays around $55 to $60 per ton. And with how much we burn, that adds up to $13.8 million this year alone. That money doesn't circulate here. It goes to the private operator, Win Waste, and to cover the facility's operating and debt costs. That money could be funding local composting sites, jobs, and training instead. If even a fraction of that same budget went into neighborhood-scale composting, bins, trucks, staff, we could create dozens of local jobs, keep Baltimore dollars local, and extend the life of our landfills. Other cities have already shown what's possible when they stop burning and start composting at scale. New York City rolled out curbside organics citywide, now collecting over 130,000 tons of food scraps a year through smart bins and mandatory separation. Prince George's County runs Maryland's largest residential food scrap program with 180,000 homes served and over $400,000 in annual revenue from its leaf grow compost sales, which is proof that composting can pay for itself. And in Washington, D.C., the Zero Waste Omnibus Act set clear goals pairing curbside pilots with 24/7 drop-off sites and rebates for home composting. So these stories show that when cities invest in composting, they create jobs, save money, and build cleaner, healthier communities, and Baltimore can do the same by starting with pilots, planning for scale, partnering with MES, I see Tim here, similar operators to create jobs and revenue to make it make sense for everyone. So if you read our report, which is linked at the end, you'll see a survey was gauged. It was conducted to gauge existing local efforts and attitudes around composting. And we are really in a research phase, so we want to get as much involvement as possible. The clicker's not working? No. Okay, it is. Working the entire time, but the thumbs up. Okay. Yeah. So the report link will be at the end. The QR code is there, as well as our contact information, because we definitely want to hear if anyone here has better ideas or wants to help answer some of our research questions, like how can we engage local communities to be part of influencing DPW's budget development process. And besides attending Taxpayers Night, which is next April, stay in touch. We would love to hear from you all. Thank you.
Thank you. Awesome. Great job. Thank you very much. May I have the clicker, please? Awesome. Thank you. Here's a QR code. Take out your phones. Capture the report. It's important. And then you make sure you follow through, okay? All right. Now we're going to do something fun. We're actually going to take a little break. And you'll be back in 5 minutes. Get a little fresh water or bathroom break, but make sure you come back because we have some exciting things next in our next lightning round. So thank you so much, and see you in about 5 minutes. So that'll bring you back at 20 after the hour. Thank you so much. Or 25.
Test one.
You better hold it.
Yeah.
It's not close enough.
Test.
So we don't need this. These guys are fun. Welcome back. We're going to start shortly. Please come on back. Welcome back. Come on, have a seat. We're about to start shortly. Thank you. Thank you so much. Now that we have been refreshed, we're back for second round. I have exciting news for you. I would like a prize. Thanks again for waiting, and thanks for coming in. All right, so this particular lightning talk is with the U.S. Climate Vulnerability Index and the politics of environmental justice. And the speaker specifically, she's a manager, Climate Justice Solutions and Environmental Defense Fund. All right, big stuff. Climate justice has just become an increasingly urgent part of the U.S. policy and public discourse, yet its benefits remains unevenly realized across the nation's most vulnerable communities. And with that, I'd like you to give a great round of applause to Lauren Johnson, the manager and Climate Justice Solutions Environmental Defense Fund. Thank you, Lauren.
Do I have a? Sorry, technical difficulties. This isn't advancing right now.
We need the slides, please.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, and I'll just say next slide and stuff. Hope it's a good angle. I mean, I can. No. So I don't know if we're. I mean, I can just talk, but it's just not ideal. Well, I'll just get started. Yeah, hopefully that resolves. Well, thank you, everyone, for joining me here today. It's been, a long morning, but we're still persevering. And I'm just so excited to contribute to this event. It's hosted by one of my greatest friends, so it's just great to be here once again. And thank you for joining me here for this session, where we'll discuss how local data can be used to drive just and equitable climate solutions in this political climate.
Keep on talking, baby.
Okay. Today, we are in a deeply fraught time, and things can seem like we will never be able to recover from what was lost. But forums such as these energizes me to know that we have a fighting chance for a better future and are still having these important conversations and finding creative solutions that benefit communities that need it the most. Today, I hope to offer insight about a tool that does just that. But first, let me level set to where we are in this climate crisis. We know that a destabilized climate is intensifying the severity of extreme weather events, infectious and chronic diseases, and social and economic stresses. Some U.S. communities have, and have always had, access to resources that help them prepare for, endure, and recover from these impacts. Many, however, do not, and they are more vulnerable to climate impacts due to decades of racist housing and infrastructure development, unequal protection of environmental laws, labor market discrimination, and other systemic inequities. Unfortunately, the kinds of persistent environmental injustices and health disparities experienced by these communities are not accidental. So I'm just going to break for one moment. I'm going to be sending these slides to an email, so please wait with me for that.
I know Lauren got started, and thank you so much for that. But the slides that you do have for Diana, is she in the room? Yeah. Do you mind doing your lightning really quickly, and we'll come back? Can you put Diana's slides up, and we'll email? Is that okay with you?
Yeah.
Okay. Can you see it? The ones that you had up by mistake, do you mind putting those back up, please? Okay. Thank you so much.
Do I need to do my talk in 7 minutes?
Yes.
Instead of in 10? All right. Roll through quickly.
Restart soon.
All right. Does the clicker work for me? Because I'm just wondering. Does it do a thing? Hey, we are in business, people. Hi, my name's Diana Devers, and I am the Director of Environmental Programs and Engagement at Patapsco Heritage Greenway. For Patapsco Heritage Greenway, the easiest way I can explain it is that we're a Maryland Heritage Area Authority. Don't worry if you have no idea what that means. I mainly did because my dad's a history teacher, so I grew up with lots of history stuff. Basically, there are 13 heritage areas in Maryland, and they're all based on something historical. So where I'm from, for the Patapsco Valley Heritage Area, is we're based on Old Ellicott City. So our office is in downtown Ellicott City. We're right above the Little Market Cafe, so if you ever get a sandwich there, we're right above you for that jazz. But we work throughout the entire Patapsco Valley. We focus, though, on mainly the Patapsco River and its surrounding area for it. So if you're kind of trying to get a map of what that is in your brain, if you think about Marriottsville, Maryland, which is the intersection of Howard County, Baltimore County, and Carroll County, starts up there, flows down with the Patapsco River until basically it meets Guinness Brewery. And I am bound in by the city and Carroll County. I can only do work in Baltimore County and Howard County. And usually what that means is I find a partner who then is in one of those areas, and I just shoo to them when I have to do things there. So what do we do within the PVHA? We're an odd one where most people in a heritage area basically have maybe 1 to 2 people that work at office. We have the luxury of 6. It's fabulous. 6 people to be able to do all of the things. So we focus on recreation, arts and culture, history/heritage, and the environment. And I get to do the fun part of the environment. So within that, some of the things we're going to talk about are tree planting, because it is a hefty process. Little did I know from the beginning. 2, how do I get approval from everybody? 3, how do I select what I'm doing, that education, and then our fun new adventure, agroforestry, love it to death. And then the finished product, the best part, seeing the smiling faces of people. So, highlighted places that we're gonna go. Mainly we're gonna focus on Baltimore County with a little bit of a dash into Howard. So the first place we're gonna start at is Edmondson Heights Elementary School, because I love working with kids. They have open minds and sassy mouths, and it is the best because they give me the real tea all the time. 2, Patapsco Valley State Park. Where would I be without the park? They basically think I am the park most of the time. I'm not, I just get to do a lot of stuff in there. And that's where we began our agroforestry journey. And then then back up is the Short Line Trail, basically by Main and Choice Avenue. The Short Line Trail is a trail that actually starts in Catonsville, goes all the way down to Gwynns Falls, and we partnered a lot with Catonsville Rails to Trails, so if you see CRTT, that's who that is. They basically do the, hey, that was a rail, now I want to turn it into a bike, walking, accessible path, and they then came to us and said, we do all of that, but we don't know about the plants or any of those things. And I said, I know about the plants and those things. So, big thing that people most of the time want to know. How did you get your money? How long did it take? Did you finish the project? Booyah, we did it all. So number one, for Edmondson Heights, it actually really started around 2021. Basically, we had tree money because 5 million trees. Basically, Maryland said, plant a bunch of trees, we'll give you the money. And I said, cool, I gotta find places where I can plant trees because I like that, and trees are good things. So when they said that, we then went around to a bunch of different schools. You would think this would be easy. That is a lie. It is not easy, mainly because every school is different. Every school district is different. Everybody has different initiatives. Everyone has different needs. So as much as I can go to people and go, yo, I have a bunch of tree money. If they go, that's cool, my kids are hungry. That's cool, my kids don't have clothes. How do you sell that vision? So you find ways to partner and sell that vision by saying, hey, I know you have food insecurity. What if I planted trees that provide food for your students that your kids can eat? What if I partnered with a health organization where they can come and they can bring you first aid kits? We can set up a vaccine station. What if I have all of those things there and do that? So that's basically where our first set of partnerships started, was for Edmondson Heights Elementary School. They wanted trees. They were like, yes, please plant them. We are in basically a neighborhood that was built in the 30s, in the 40s, that we now have no trees. How do we put them in? And I said, cool, let's find the people. And all we did was use students because I don't have enough people to put trees into the ground. So I said, find the bodies. When we did that and we found all those kids' parents said, I want to do it too. So then their parents came, their uncles came, their next door neighbors came, because that means I now also have a community watch system on my trees. So if anybody tries to come take my trees, a deer eats my trees, you best believe somebody has told me about it. We can go fix those trees. Then throughout the entire year of 2022, we were able to get all of the approvals, and I mean BCPS approving, the facilities approving, the SPR form, which is the special project request form, or you now have to fill out the 7330 form, where the school says, yo, an outside entity is coming in to put stuff in, they need to be liable. They tried to make us liable forever. We said, no, we can't be liable that 30 years from now when that tree branch breaks and it hurts a kid that now I, who no longer works hopefully for PhD, hopefully I'm living that retirement life, no longer has to pay for that. Had to do a lot of work to get that done. So once we did all that, a lot of email communication, a lot of going out to the community, and a lot of asking them, what kind of trees do you want? Because schools don't want trees that drop fruit, drop nuts, drop anything where any animal could ever come. And I'm like, there's a whole other argument that ensues with that. So once we did all that, you betcha we planted trees on May 4th in 2023. We planted 51 trees of a variety of red buds, dogwoods, hackberry, red maples, all the fun things that people get to do. And not only the fun stuff that happened with that was we planted with the 3rd grade class. We did tree maintenance every single season with that same class as they kept moving. So those kids went to their trees and they were like, I found my tree. And they would run to their tree, go do it, and they'd be like, our tree has seeds on it. And I'd be like, that's great, let's get that tree. And then when their uncles and their grandparents and all of them came out, they went, where's your tree? Run to the tree, find the tree. So they thought it was great. Then we did Howard County. This is where my big partnerships came in. Because the minute I said agroforestry, the park said, oh yeah, let's do it. So when I say agroforestry, I mean a lot of people think of agroforestry as leaning into more of this particularly farming and cropping using trees. I don't got time for that. And so instead, I said, how can I plant agroforestry trees in a normal tree way? Because a lot of agroforestry trees are understory trees automatically. So when we went out there and said, let's plant serviceberry, beach plum, elderberry, things where now it's free in a plot where anyone who comes to the park could come take those fruits whenever they want. They can take it away with them, do whatever they want with it. When I said that, and I said, hey, I'm probably gonna need a bit more money because I wanna make sure these stay alive, companies like Under Armour said, oh, we wanna come. So Under Armour came out and they come and do the maintenance and they consider those trees their own. And literally their green team comes out, they make a whole event of it and they do that. And then they donate money to us to also say, hey, keep going with your initiatives, keep doing what you need to do. So now we can put that money into schools and do programs there. 2, then we had people who said, I love University of Maryland, and I live in Howard County. So the University of Maryland's Howard County Alumni Association, that we also want to help. So they came and added more trees to our plot. So now we have over 120 trees there. They're agroforestry trees. And then we then went into the short line made in choice trail. That one was interesting because Catonsville Rails to Trails, like I said before, came to us and said, we need to do a bunch of trees and environmental stuff. I said, well, what kind of trees do you want? They're like, well, I don't know. And I said, well, let's think about it. When you go on a trail, what do you look for? And the guy said, well, I really like birding, so I really want trees that attract birds. I said, okay. Well, I really like beautiful flowers. I want to be able to, from March until October, be able to see beautiful flowers everywhere. Okay. So we took these lists of things from Catonsville Rails Trails, and people, as we literally stood there and surveyed people who walked their dog, bike rode, motor scooted, whatever, along the short line and said, why do you like this trail? Why do you come to it? What's the point? And so, well, we took all of those things and then added trees based on those things. So we added in serviceberry trees, white fringe tree, things that we knew were going to look pretty, offered a lot of food options, offered things where natural wildlife will come about, but also added a really solid trophic environmental understory to our area. Of course it's up, how dare you? So for them, the agroforestry, the main things I wanted to go through for this guy is just when it comes to agroforestry is picking trees that actually work really well with your environment. So we have still done and are still continue to do a lot of research of what trees work well together, what trees actually add food that maybe is just a different way to think about it. So like serviceberries kind of taste like a mixture of raspberries and blueberries together. So when they go, I don't like serviceberries, I go, well, taste this blueberry, taste this raspberry, now taste the serviceberry. The kids goes, that's delicious. Now they're adding to their palate, they're changing something new, and it's something they can eat on the regular and add to it. So things like that. So we're trying to figure out what are the top ones. What are the top ones medicinally? Because a lot of agroforestry, what we've learned, especially as we work with Piscataway nations, as we work with different Native American organizations, is indigenous planting. It's actually going back to what we already did. So it's exactly what Dr. Wilson said, which I can't believe he jazzed me up for like the 3rd year in a row now about doing what I'm doing, is because I'm going back to what we already did, and we said we can make it better, and it didn't really work out so well, so instead we did this. So now we're going back to agroforestry to figure out how long does it take? Can it really have food? How long does it take to get the food? We had service berries within 4 months of planting. We already had them, so we could be able to do that and do that jazz. And then the last part of it, because I just know you guys want to see the pictures. Look at the kids, they're doing the things. This is them as 5th graders. Look at them, they're doing the fun things. Look at those, look at them. We actually got to work with the Young African Leaders Initiative for the past 3 years. They came and did stuff. That's a whole other story. If you want to come find out about that, please talk to me. They are the most craziest, best people I've ever met in my life. Talking about the Short Line Trail, talking about Catonsville Rails to Trails. That's me. I did it hopefully in about 8 minutes.
Wow, great job, great job. Yeah, you can do it. Thank you so much. I learned so much about trees. And they actually planted a couple in our backyard, so now I'm going to figure out what they are. Okay. With that, I'm going to be able to fall back onto Joanna. Please try now our lucky clicker to make sure that we have everything lined up for you. Ta-da! It should pull up, yes. Oh, it's a teaser. Okay. Ah, is that you? It's not, okay. Who's this? Is Jennifer here? Oh my goodness, Lord. Can we get back to Lauren? Any luck? Thumbs up? 3, 2, 1. All right, I like that. Anticipation. Should she just go ahead and start and you'll be able to pick up? All right. I'm going to pass this on to you again.
Okay, thank you. Such an exciting talk about agroforestry. That's the real work on the ground. Well, I'm going to jump back into my presentation. Hopefully things work out. This presentation is about the U.S. Climate Vulnerability Index and the politics of environmental justice. And I first want to start off with a level set of where we are today in this climate crisis. We know that a destabilized climate is intensifying the severity of extreme weather events, infectious and chronic diseases, and social and economic stresses. Some U.S. communities have always had access to resources that help them prepare for, endure, and recover from these impacts. Many, however, do not, and they're more vulnerable to climate impacts due to decades of racist housing and infrastructure development, unequal protection of environmental laws, labor market discrimination, and other systemic inequities. Unfortunately, the kinds of persistent environmental injustices and health disparities experienced by these communities are not accidental. They're inextricably linked to environmental racism and discriminatory historical policies. Take redlining in Baltimore, for example. The Homeowners Loan Corporation was established in the 1930s, right before the surge of suburbanization in the US. It was supposed to provide mortgage relief to homeowners at risk of losing their homes through foreclosure. But what loan officers and appraisers did was evaluate mortgage lending risk, and they ended up creating a property rating system with A being the best and D being the worst. A ratings went to properties located in homogeneous areas that did not have any people of color. And if a neighborhood contained a single Black resident, it was automatically marked as D, regardless of their socioeconomic status or how small a percentage of the population they made up. And those that had these D ratings couldn't get a loan to purchase or upgrade a property. So what these appraisers did was effectively ensure segregation through this property rating system, unfairly deeming mostly Black and brown communities ineligible for federal mortgages. Redlining, which first started in Baltimore, it resulted in almost a century of disinvestment and continues to contribute to the conditions perpetuating systemic inequities to this day, such as unequal protection of environmental laws and labor market discrimination. And the result of these low property values hindered a way for not only generating generational wealth, but it also paved the way for the disproportionate placement of industrial facilities, toxic waste sites, and polluting freeways. In other words, these sources of pollution and the multitude of environmental hazards that come with them were built into low-income communities and communities of color, making it more difficult for them to be resilient in the face of a changing climate. Therefore, given all of this, what we need are comprehensive tools to address these issues that translate lived experience into data, that demonstrates vulnerabilities from the systemic to the community level. And that is where the US Climate Vulnerability Index comes in. So right now I would show a picture of it. Just picture a US map with darker colors, and the darker colors are mostly in the Gulf Coast and Southeast. So this imaginary map, which exists, it's otherwise known as the CVI, and it's an environmental justice screening and mapping tool that uses data to show disparities across America, from access to supermarkets to quality of housing. And you should be able to go to climatevulnerabilityindex.com and you can check it out there. It's good on your mobile phone, but I highly recommend on a desktop so you can explore there. And what this tool does is identify local climate vulnerabilities on a national scale to a local scale. And the national map of this tool, it ranks every census tract in the US, over 70,000 census tracts, and the darker the color on the tool, the higher the vulnerability. It is when we translate lived experience and advocacy into data visualizations that we can help see which communities face the greatest challenges from the impacts of climate change and socioeconomic disparities. This is a tool that helps define where climate action is needed most, and that communities will use this data to advocate for policies that build resilience to more intense wildfires, flooding, and heat waves anticipated to come. And from the beginning of this tool's development, equity and justice community leaders were included in its development, where we had feedback from community partners, mostly out of the Houston area, but they helped make sure that this tool reflected data in their lived experiences and what they felt made their communities vulnerable as well as resilient. And we held periodic meetings over 2 years to ensure the indicators included were relevant to them and useful for community advocacy. And we engaged an analytics firm called Dark Horse Analytics to design the dashboard and the interactive map of this tool. So going back to this abstract tool that you don't see right now, what it does is it paints a holistic picture of a community's vulnerability, where you can have overall climate vulnerability scores produced at the census tract, county, state, and EPA region scale to better understand how a specific community's vulnerability relates to its neighbors and the rest of the country, where the greater vulnerability corresponds to a higher national percentile and a darker color on the map. So this shows which communities need to be prioritized over other given the issue. And it's able to show how they perform relative to each community, relative to climate vulnerability, and allows us to prioritize action in that fashion. So I'll give an example of the 1,400 census tracts in Maryland. The Medford-Browning census tract in Baltimore's overall climate vulnerability score ranks first in the state due to a variety of long-standing systemic inequities. It is also in the 99th national percentile, meaning that 99% of all other census tracts have less overall climate vulnerability than this one. And in Baltimore, when we look at the CBI, we see climate vulnerability hotspots all throughout the city, and picture them as this butterfly pattern located in the heart of the city that characterizes disparities throughout the region whenever you look at socioeconomic indicators. And the CVI is also transformative because it has climate impacts data. And this data, you see more vulnerability along the coast, and you see more of the climate vulnerability overall data corresponding with community baseline, which shows that community baseline vulnerability data is what is driving vulnerability in that community. So what this tool does, it allows us to drill down into data further and identify what is driving vulnerability. And we can look at data for the entire city of Baltimore. According to the CVI, what is driving vulnerability in the city of Baltimore is pollution sources, which is the number and kinds of polluters in a community. These can include metal recyclers, brownfield sites, chemical manufacturers, risk management plan facilities, those that have hazardous waste, with different violations, all these things. And that's what makes Baltimore City ranking first or second greatest vulnerability compared to other counties in Maryland. And vulnerability in the city is also driven by criteria air pollutants and child maternal health adverse outcomes. But of course, climate change is not leaving Baltimore City unscathed, where air pollution related deaths are in the 98th national vulnerability percentile and ranks first of all counties in Maryland. And this is because of ozone mortality and cardiovascular disease related PM2.5 mortality, which means increases in heart disease death from fine particulate matter air pollution from those 65 and older. So that is some of the picture the CBI paints. I hope you got a feel for it in your head. And please check out the tool to learn more. But I just want to close with just level setting to where we are today, because we can use tools like the CVI, but we also must understand our personal mandate to advancing environmental justice. Because I don't want to sugarcoat what is happening now. We're in a culture that is becoming more fearful politically, and people's lives are being threatened, especially those that are immigrants. But this is nothing new, because the history of this country is built on oppression and silencing of marginalized people. And just like our ancestors kept fighting when the government is against them, so will we. And it depends on all of us to make a difference. And I really hope this summit inspires you to take the first steps towards building a more inclusive future that benefits everyone, doesn't leave anyone behind. And I'm happy to take any questions about how to use or apply the CVI in your day-to-day work. So thank you so much for your patience through all of this.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. I love the way you handle that. I learned so much information, and I love the map. With that, I believe our next speaker is going to be talking about powering communities together, understanding the benefits of community solar. And with that is Kimberly Armstrong. Kimberly, where are you? Oh, come on up, Kimberly. I feel like a Price is Right here, right? Kimberly is the Chief Sustainability Officer and Energy Advisor for the Urban Clean Energy Advisors. And Kimberly, you're welcome to use this space if you'd like. You don't have to stay right there. It's up to you.
Since we don't have the slides, I have them on my phone, so I'm sorry that you all can't see them, but it's okay. As she said, I'm Kimberly Armstrong with Urban Clean Energy Advisors, but I'm also the co-founder of Baltimore Green Justice Workers Cooperative. I know that's a mouthful, but I wanted to talk to you and share with you about community solar today. How many of you know community solar and what community solar is? Okay, so for those of you that don't, community solar is a legislative policy that's permanent now, but it was a pilot program for almost 7 years. And so before it sunset, it became a permanent program, so now that everyone can be involved in community solar. So community solar is where you don't have to have solar on your roof. Ain't that fantastic? And you can still tie into the green climate economy. So how many of you have driven down the road or the highway and see those big old fields of solar panels? That could be a community solar, what we call a host site. Community solar farm, they generate electricity, and the energy sent from the power, it still goes to the grid, and you subscribe to a community host, one of those big sites, and you get credits on your bill, which can help you to reduce your bill. But also, oh my goodness, thank you. Do I need a little clicker? That's okay, everybody can see. You can keep on doing. Okay, but do I need the clicker thing? It's right here. Yeah, you got it. We'll see. Okay, so this is basically what I was stating earlier. And why choose community solar? Choosing community solar because it can help you reduce your bill, right? So who wants less energy or a cheaper energy bill? I know I do. Well, that's going backwards. I want to go. Oh, okay. So this is an example of how community solar works. So you're still going to be tied to the grid. However, the beautiful thing is that you don't have to have the solar panels on your roof, right? And so I've been on the solar industry for a minute, and some people don't like the aesthetics of solar panels on the roof. They like, well, can I get it in a different color? So some of them come in black, right? Some of them are like a little bluish kind of color. I'm serious. People are really picky when it comes to the homes and what the homes look like. And I'm like, okay, do you? Now, the benefits of lowering your energy costs, it also creates jobs and reduces your carbon footprint. And you can save anywhere between 10 and 20% on your electricity bill with no upfront cost. Now, this is a state program, okay? So this is not a scam. So, you know how you have them people knocking on your door saying, hey, let me change your energy rates. No, totally different. So I like to let people know that this is really something that's serious. And it just happened last year. That's me, and that actually is a solar farm that's being run, and it powers a brewery in Frederick, Maryland, right? And so I believe their whole entire facility and brewery, right, is run, I think he said maybe 95% is run strictly on solar and clean energy. It reduces your environmental impact, and it reduces your resilience on fossil fuels, decreases greenhouse gases and emissions, and it helps fight climate change. Now, up here is my house. That's my real house, y'all. That's not a doll house or anything. That's my real house. So I have rooftop solar and I have community solar. So I have both, and I should have put my bill in here. You know what? That's what I'm gonna do, so people don't think I'm just talking to be talking. But the last 3 months, I had a negative energy bill. Last month, or maybe the month before, guess how much my energy bill was? $1.50. $1.15. Yeah, so who can join community solar? Homeowners, renters, businesses, anybody that has space for solar panels, anyone is interested in lowering the energy bills and sustainability. And that was, I hit it right on the spot. So this is my information. You can always email me at kimberly@urbanclean.energy, and those are my websites. So thank you all very, very much.
Thank you. I like your moves. Yeah.
You can sit down so much, you gotta.
That's right. You got to. You can grab your cell phone. That's it. All right. There we go. Perfect timing. Perfect timing. There we go. Lauren, they're channeling you. That's what it is. It's positive channeling. Right now, actually, we're going to Jennifer. Jennifer is going to be talking about navigating eco-anxiety to uncertain times. What does hope look like? Jennifer is an award-winning climate change and mental health practitioner, and she recently moved to the Baltimore area. Thank you so much. Welcome to Baltimore. And would like to share her experiences in working with BIPOC youths on eco-anxiety. That's a real thing, I know, because I got a youth, and they're definitely anxious. So I look forward to hearing from Jennifer and what you have to share. I will pass this on to you, and the clicker too. Here we go. So obviously press the green button.
Hi, everyone. Okay, so my heart is racing really quickly. It's crazy because I'm talking about mental health and climate change. But I've been introduced, and I mean, my topic is pretty straight to the point, I think. Eco-anxiety, climate change, and mental health. And I wanted to invite us to take a deep breath. I think it's been quite heavy. Lots of solutions, innovations, and technical stuff. So let's take a deep breath and I think together imagine what hope looks like in these times. And the previous speakers have done such a great job of laying the foundation, whether it's a justice issue, the bureaucracy of getting trees planted. I was looking at the list, and yeah, so this is the reality of the times. Funding is difficult to get to. It's hard to imagine. And I think my submission is slightly different from the rest because I want us to still stay hopeful in this work that we do. So how many of us have heard of the word meta-crisis? Anyone? Great, awesome. So we are in a meta-crisis, right? Because there's multiple things happening. In 2023, the world said we're in a poly-crisis, and then it was a bit more manageable. We knew the different things we're dealing with. Now it's out of hand. I mean, I'm Nigerian living in Baltimore, and there's a whole different thing. If anyone has seen the news, the US is threatening to invade Nigeria, So it's crazy times, even to do this work, right? But the meta-crisis, it's bringing multiple things, right? So it's the planetary crisis, which, as we all know, people have talked about zero waste, they've talked about the climate crisis, there's also biodiversity loss. There's also economic instability, right? Prices have gone up everywhere. There's geopolitical tensions all over, AI disruption, good or bad thing, waste of resources. There's all of this happening, and I'm sure we can point many more arrows if we had more time. But there's also social distress, right? When we think of vulnerability and the ways people can bounce back, we're thinking of the distresses, the poverty, the diseases, whether related to climate or not. All of these are happening at the same time. And very importantly is the mental health decline, the fact that we're all stressed, we're all feeling this, whether it's in loneliness, whether it's in anxiety, whether it's in tension. This is real. It hasn't been this bad before, where one way or the other, everyone is feeling some sort of stress. So these are uncertain times, and my work is around eco-anxiety. Eco-anxiety is a spectrum of emotions we feel when we think of the current state of the planet. Not to be mistaken with climate anxiety, although climate anxiety is a subset of eco-anxiety. But I'm particular about the entire state of the planet, whether it's the ways that the poly crisis and meta crisis come together. However, eco-anxiety is a healthy and normal response to everything that we're feeling. And so there's this nice wheel I like to use in my workshops, and it tells you the different feelings that we can look at. And you can look at the wheel. Some of us feel anger sometimes, some of us feel hopeful, we feel sadness, we feel fear, panic. It's all in the mix, and that's why it's a spectrum. And some days I feel extremely fearful based on my identity. I'm a new mom, for example, so I'm frightened for my child in the world that we live in. And some days I feel overwhelmed because it's just too much. Everything is happening all at once. And there are days I feel hopeful when I hear really, really exciting solutions. And the young people who are also bringing it, making it happen. Also, it's a crisis of empathy, right? Because less people are caring about the things that are happening. We're here today because we care about the planet, we care about people, but there's just not a lot of people. And even people within our spaces have lost their jobs, so it's difficult for them to care. It's difficult for them to still remain connected to this issue. And so what do we do with a crisis of empathy combined with eco-anxiety? We look to hope. And the big question was, what does hope look like? And I thought, such a big question for me to try to answer. And I think it's always going to be contextual. However, I do have some offerings that we can think of. Has anyone heard about mycelium? Anyone? Awesome. So myceliums are this network, invisible roots. They're amazing. They're extremely interconnected. They're extremely resourceful. And I like us to think of ourselves as myceliums, basically. I need something from you. You have some idea that I can tap into that can help me breathe the next day, basically. And if we start to think of ourselves as myceliums or part of this large network, then it means that we can rethink what solidarity means, right? Because I grew up in this walk of environmental justice, and there was always a blame game. There was always a them versus us. But I think hope in these times looks like thinking, how do we work together? How do we find allies? How can I support your work? How can you support my work? And then we need to break the mold, right? We're used to doing things a certain way. We need more disruptive thinkers, and I think that's where we start to reimagine what creativity looks like. And then compassion in action. And to everyone nodding at me, I think you're being very compassionate, so thank you. Thank you very much. And I think finally activating rest. Rest is not something I've heard so much of today, and I think it's really important. We need to learn to take a step back, rest, and I think it's all part of the mycelium. Not all of the roots do things at the same time. Sometimes we take a break, sometimes we fall back, but I think it's really important if we're thinking of hope in these times, basically. I'll end with this quote by Hannah Arendt, and what she was really speaking to was this idea of thoughtlessness. The fact that we just don't care, and we all can't come on the same point of view. If I can't agree with you, the sense of polarity and division continues. And that's really important in this time, for us to think of empathy as a way forward for climate action. Sounds very disconnected, but I think if we start to reflect on it, we see that we need people beyond the solutions, beyond the emissions. We actually need people to come together. And whether they agree with us on certain things, we can all look at our common future, which is the environment, which is our planet. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Hope. I like that. Ending on that note.